All right. Well, welcome to today's episode of the Home Run Pre-Sales webinar series. We are very excited to have Rew Dickinson talking with all of us today. So we'll get to Rew in just a moment to talk about stop rambling in your demos, brevity frameworks for sales engineers. I'm really excited about this one. Before we get started, though, my name is Brian Lewis. I'm co-founder and CRO of Home Run Presales. If you're not familiar with us already, we are the pre-sales workspace that gets you through your day, one place to track, manage, organize, and inform all of your pre-sales efforts. Got some great QR codes here. If you want to learn more about us in the upper right, that's going to take you to the Home Run Presales website. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we have great videos, guides there. Webinars like this will make their way there. So scan the one in the lower left and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And the one on the bottom right is going to take you to the Home Run Presales content library, where there are a number of really great pre-sales guides, best practices for X, Y, and Z. A lot of those are there. So make sure and go grab those too. With that out of the way, we're going to introduce Rew here to get started. So if you're not familiar, Rew Dickinson is CEO of Alpha Presales. He's been a sales rep, a sales engineer, a leader in go-to-market. He's given countless trainings to go-to-market teams around the world, including to some home run customers, which was fantastic. He has given a lot of webinars. He has keynoted Demo Fest, if you're familiar with that pre-sales conference, next one coming up in New York. He's won awards for the best presentation. And Rew's also just an all-around great person to know. I've had a lot of great interactions with Rew, got to spend some time with him in different places around the world. One of my favorite people, and a very unique style of training, as you're going to see. So if you are a pre-sales leader, sales leader, go-to-market leader on this webinar, definitely be looking at Rew for your sales kickoffs and for your ongoing training needs. He's not to be missed. Rew, with that, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me here. I'm super excited for this. How many attendees are we up at now? I think it's, you said over 300 or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. It's huge.
Wild. All right. So we are going to get right into this. Hello, everyone. I'm monitoring the chat here. Looks like we've got, oh, Bill, nice. Jersey. I'm a Jersey guy here. I usually don't tell people that, especially people from Texas here. There's some flavors. You got South Carolina. Saw some Ireland, little roadie. All over. No pressure. San Jose. Good stuff. Yeah, keep the stuff coming in here. More another Jersey boy. Yeah, Mark. Good to see you. All right. All right. Well, we're gonna get right into it here. And we're talking about brevity, but before we get into that, I want to just start off with why this actually matters. So when you're looking at a sales cycle, I think it's really easy if folks are sales engineers, which is typically the audience that we attract here, to forget kind of where you're at within the bigger picture of sales. And so why we're focusing on brevity is this. If you look at a standard sales cycle, the cycle begins right here, and then it goes through a process. And at a certain point, the customer goes and makes a decision. And then what happens is they go through this implementation process where they're not going to get any value until they get here and the product is implemented and adopted. So one of the things that we're doing in this, when we're talking about having brevity and stopping rambling in our demos, is we're trying to shorten this portion of the sales cycle or the buying cycle for the buyer. And the reason for that is if you can be more clear and concise in your demo, you can shorten the decision-making process, move that down from maybe 6 months down to 3 months. And then you're still going to have the same implementation time. But now where does the customer get the value? Their value comes here instead of over here. So when you're speaking about brevity and you're speaking about all of these frameworks that we're going to be discussing today, the goal is to help the customer make a decision faster, because that means they get value faster. So everything I'll be talking about today, you can use it as a sales engineer, as a sales rep, as a leader, as a communicator, whatever it is, to help people make decisions more quickly, because that's what's best for you and that's what's best for your buyer. So that's our why it matters. And now we're going to do a quick little intro here, and we will also play some games. So let's see here. Kicking us off, I want you to, if you're on your phone or your computer here, you can scan this barcode. You can do this either going to mentee.com and putting in that code down at the bottom. That's 41689122. Or you can just scan this and pull it up on your phone. And we're going to do a little poll, figure out where folks are from, what they're interested in, what they're hoping to get out of the session. So I'm going to kick that off. So question number one, and I'll share these results up with you on screen, is where or what is your role? Looks like we've got a lot of pre-sales folks. We've got some sales folks. Welcome. Thank you, AEs. If you're an AE, drop it in the chat. I'm curious. We got some sales leadership. We got some enablement. By the way, I've done all of these roles, so I hear you. Good amount of pre-sales folks, good amount of pre-sales leaders. Good stuff. All right. Next question for you is, how long have you been doing your current role? We got 5+ years, most common. Ooh, this is great. You got about 15, 16, 18 within 2 years, but a lot of folks for the 5+ years. 2 to 3, 3 to 4, a nice mix. A lot of veterans here, though. This is great because these concepts we're talking about become more valuable the smarter you get. And if anybody who's been in this role for 5+ years, you probably know everything. It's a matter of how do we filter everything we know down to just what's essential for the customer. Good stuff. All right, next one. Just drop your location in here. I'm curious where folks are at. We were just in London a few weeks ago. I was there with Brian and everybody from Consensus. We were at Demo Fest. That was a fun time. We'll see where the group's from. A little all over. Got some US Americans. Look, we got some Canadians. Nice. Europeans. Somebody hanging in the Pacific, or no, the Indian Ocean. That's awesome. Somebody maybe calling in from a boat. We'll see. Got some Latinos. Wonderful. All right. And last question. What are you hoping to get out of this session? Knowledge, brevity, tips, ideas, clarity, tools, ideas, mastering brevity, effectiveness, techniques, clarity, best practices, become more effective, actionable advice. Ooh, I like actionable advice because that's what I'm all about here. Rather than theories and concepts, we're going to practice some of these things. So, good stuff. Thank you all for getting involved with that mentee. Now I'm going to jump back in to the presentation bit, and we're going to discuss this a little bit further. So real quick, I wanted to give you a quick story on my background. So I am a former consultant and an engineer by trade. Does anyone know? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Do you know what you get when you mix a consultant and an engineer? Yeah, definitely an SC. A tactical weapon. I like that, Brian. It depends, from Gary Rizzo. Oh, it's too good. Superhero? Yeah. Trusted advisor. You get a lot, right? But here's the other thing you get. Steve Dvorak, spot on. Steve Dvorak nailed it here. This is what you hear. This is what you get. You get an over-explaining person that just gets way too into the weeds. It's a mix of the technical brain with the engineer and the afraid to be wrong brain of the consultant that says it depends. So you get a lot of jargon and a lot of things. So I spent a lot of my career with this struggle of brevity. And so everything that I'm going to take you through today has helped me in being more brief, more concise. So yes, you do get these superpowers, but you also get the good with the bad. So I'm going to go and break this down for you. If you haven't met me before, I do sales training all over the world. Alpha Presales that was actually awarded top 10 sales training company of 2024. So this is pretty cool. Not many pre-sales companies got this. And one of the things that we're going to go and take you through here is how to sell so that your client or your buyer can do some of the selling on your behalf. And this was just a quote from one of the sales reps and sales engineer combos that went through one of the trainings that I did. He said, I was always scared after meetings because we would be gone and then they weren't in the room anymore to actually sell and help spread that message. He said, but now I'm not worried about that because prospects sell internally on our behalf. And that's the goal of today's session. I want to give you some frameworks so that when you leave the room, the prospect can continue to tell your story and tell your message so that they can ultimately decide to do something. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer in the chat. We're going to play a little game here. And this is a game that helps folks with brevity. And you all can, we're going to practice it now, and then you all can take this and you can play it on your weekly team meeting. So I'll ask for folks, if you want to go and raise your hand, we're going to bring somebody up on stage, and I'm just going to ask you to explain the implementation process for your company or the software that you have. Or if you're in between companies, maybe the implementation process at a former company, whatever it is. But all I would need is someone just to come up, and I'll just ask them, hey, can you tell me a little bit about the implementation process? And they're going to go and try to explain that for about a minute or so, 60 seconds. Anybody care to raise their hand to come up on stage with me in order to do this? Got any takers? Let's see. All right. Brian, let's bring Samir up here. All right, let's give him a round of applause here. Samir, thank you for coming up here. All right, Samir, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Samir Kosser. I'm a longtime SE, currently at Home Run Presales as a senior solutions consultant, and had the pleasure of meeting Rew a couple weeks ago. So I'm really excited to be up here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. This is a lot of attention. We got a bunch of people on here, Samir, so no pressure. But we're going to play a fun little game, and this is just going to be a game that you can go and play wherever you want. And we're going to have Samir, I want you to explain the implementation process for Home Run or for any company, really, for that matter, in about 60 seconds. And I'll pull up a timer here. You don't have to be exactly on, but you've got about 60 seconds to go through that. Take it away.
Yeah. So when it comes to implementing Home Run, we have set it up in a way to make it as easy as possible. We go through a Google Doc that lays out all the various pieces from which integrations we're connecting with, your CRM. One of the biggest pieces is deciding what type of attributes you want to be able to take down. And then depending on those attributes, which ones are we actually pulling in from the CRM? Which ones are we pushing up to the CRM? That takes majority of the time. The next piece is going to be around activity management. What are the types of activities that are valuable for the team to be tracking down, and what do we want to call them? And a lot of this is thinking about, we don't want to track everything, but we want to track enough. So finding that middle ground between what are those activities. Another piece of this is from the stages perspective. What are the pre-sale stages that we actually care about? As we all know, we're given maybe one or two sales stages within our CRM, but we all know that in pre-sales, we have multiple stages below. So determining what those stages are.
So I'm going to give you the timeout. It's good stuff. Samir, that was 68 seconds. So good stuff. It was really clear. I picked up on the requirements, the activities, being able to go and track that and keep track of things. So nice explanation. Now, Samir, what I want you to do is I want you to say everything you just said, And I want you to do it in 30 seconds, not 60 seconds. Can you do that?
Yep, I can give it a shot.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to start the timer in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so from our implementation plan, we lay it all out for you with a easy to digest Google Doc. Within the doc, there's going to be different things such as the stages you care about, the activities you want to track, all of the different integrations you want, what are the various attributes you want to map to and from your CRM. And this way we guide you through each step. We are able to visualize it together and then decide on what's too much, what's too little. And by the end of it, we will get you fully onboarded to Home Run.
That was awesome. So that was 32 seconds. So good work here. All right, Samir. You thought that was good, but now we're going to ask you to do this in 15 seconds.
All
We
right.
got 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. During our implementation process, we go through a pre-built Google Sheet that has everything you need to do. So we'll follow the tabs and we'll be able to organize it in a way that makes sense.
13 seconds. Awesome. All right, Samir, now the hardest one. Can you do it in 5 seconds?
We can try.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
We have a Google Sheet that allows you to track everything you need for the onboarding.
Done. 4. Well done. Okay, round of applause for Samir. Was that awesome? Great work. Super difficult, right? But you're able to go and cut things down as you went through. So Samir, I love that you got down to the core minimum at the end of this. We're going to have you come back up potentially at the end and do this again. But I want to thank you for doing that. We got a bunch of hands. Everybody's giving you love. We got some nice shades from Carl Green here. Thank you, Samir. So why do we do that activity? Well, that's just a fun little activity to focus your message. So how do you go and take a complex message and distill it down? So practice is an easy way to do that, but you don't always have that opportunity when you're in front of a client. So if you all are looking for a fun game to play at your sales kickoff, at your weekly team meetings, this is a fun one. It's a little improv game that you can do. All right. Now moving right along, we don't want to just have to rely on practice here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're doing this. And so if you've seen any of my sessions before, you'll know that we do some research into interests and things that are interesting to clients or not interesting to clients. And one of the things that we do is we do research and we poll executives, managers, and individual contributors. What are the top things that consultants and salespeople do that annoy you? I ask this question frequently in a lot of our training workshops. And what I want to do is I want to highlight some of the key things that we heard. This is not everything, but these are things that are related to the topic we're talking about. So drop it in the chat or raise your hand here if over-explaining is a little bit annoying to you. How about not directly answering your question with yes or no when the question is yes or no? Yeah, this is a common one. Yeah, that's bad, man. Extra words. Not being concise. A lot of folks do this. The more you Steve, yes, 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 yes. I got one more. I'm assuming this is a yes. Wasting my time, right? These are all things, pet peeves of clients. And the smarter you are, the more you're going to do this. And the longer you've been in this profession, the easier it is to do this because you know more and more of the benefits. So these are just some of those things that annoy clients. And what we're going to focus on today, yeah, guilty here, agreed, Paul. What we're going to focus on is how to stop doing some of that stuff. So drop it in the chat. I'm going to give a process for explaining processes more simply. This is if you've got a long, let's say, implementation process or other things. And we're going to go through a framework on that. Now, if you've heard of this before, drop it in the chat. Have you heard of the rule of 3 before? Think so. Yes, no, yes, nope, yes, no. A little all over. Good stuff. All right. So The rule of three is a very simple and very effective brevity framework that you can use not just in demos, but anywhere. So I use this regularly. First off, you'll notice that there are 3 bullet points on this slide. That's intentional. But the rule of three is a marketing concept, and it's probably applies to more than just marketing, but it's this idea that the human brain has a real difficult time remembering things that are more than 3. What's nice about 3, though, is it starts a process and it often creates a pattern. So if you look at the Rice Krispies, it's snap, crackle, pop. There's the ABCs, there's Do, Re, Mi, there's the Three Stooges, the Three Wise Men, the Three Amigos. Threes exist all over the place. And if you start recognizing that, if you're not familiar with the rule of 3, you'll start to notice this more and more as it's now triggered in your brain. Snap, crackle, chop sounds like me walking first thing in the morning. Ben, same thing. I had a couple of knee surgeries here. So the rule of 3 is a great way to go and simplify complicated concepts into 3 things. Now you might be saying, okay, great, but how do we go and simplify something like the implementation process into 3 things? It can be tough, right? So step 1 is, if you haven't heard of the rule of 3, if I ask you what are the top 3 benefits of your software, I want you to list out the 3. Or if I ask you, what are the benefits of your software? Only list out the top 3. If you list out 2, it can be compelling. 3, a little bit more substantive. But once you get to 4, it gets really hard to remember all of them. So I'll see this a lot of times where folks will be demonstrating, or they'll be going and giving a presentation on all the things that they're going to show, and there's 5 bullet points on there. And you look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can't remember a single one of them. So cut that to your top 3, and it's up to you to choose what those top 3 are. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to practice this, because one of you said that you wanted actionable advice. And so we're going to practice this as we go through. So there's another framework that I use, and this applies to the rule of 3. And this is called the CCC framework. CCC stands for cut, categorize, combine. So what I want to do now is get onto the chat, and I want everyone to start to walk me through what is involved in an enterprise sales process. Meaning, if you're just trying to tell a friend what are all the steps in an enterprise sale, not just a transactional sale of a software product, what are those steps? So what you all are going to do is drop some of those steps in the chat, and I'm going to start drawing them out, listing them out here. So we've got trust. We've got discovery. We've got qualification, demo, scope, RFP, POC, MedPick. I'll add that to qualification here. Good stuff. Mutual action plan. Love that, Sarah. Intro, discovery, deployment, planning, deployment. Let's see, legal contracts, good stuff, Logan. I got another one, negotiation. I'll add that up here. Onboarding, problem solution value, close 1. Love it. Gather support from the buying committee. Yeah. All right. So for the sake of simplicity, we're going to take this and we're going to try to kind of outline what this looks like sequentially. So if I were to do this, probably step 1 is just probably looking at building trust, sort of rapport. We'll do some qualification, then maybe discovery. Then we go into a mutual action plan, let's say. We get into a demo, it's 5. Then maybe we do scope out a POC, or maybe that's more into deployment. And then we do the POC. Oh, an RFP, that probably happens beforehand. So I'll put that as step 0. So now we're at 7. And then let's see, we might go to legal and contracting, it would be 8. And then back up to negotiation, that's 9. And then we'll do close 1, 10. And then we'll do deployment, 11. So if you were to walk up to a buyer and you said, hey, I'd like to sell you this software. There's only 11 steps that we need to go through. How excited do you think they would be to be starting off this evaluation? Probably not very, right? Well, yeah, doubtful, right? Christina, we got some people laughing here. Yeah, this is really complicated. Has anyone ever been to the Cheesecake Factory? This is like looking at the Cheesecake Factory. You walk in and you have no idea what you want to order. So this is really complex. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the CCC framework to cut, categorize, and combine. So now I need your help again. In the chat, are there certain things on this list that you think, if we're talking about the implementation process or the sales process, maybe we could cut, not because it's unnecessary, but it's a lower, it's not applicable in all cases. So let's see, what were things here that maybe you could cut from here? Legal and contracts could be there. POC, yeah, it's likely that could go and get cut. Maybe it's not a POC. Maybe it ends up being a demo. Let's see. Please cut POC, says Joe. I love it. Please cut the RFP. Agreed. No one likes that one. Yeah. Yeah, so we can cut a couple of things, right? And it doesn't mean you can always cut everything here, but these are some ideas. This is just to get us thinking. Now, let's forget the cut. Let's move on to the second C, categorize. Is there anything, reminds me of a South Park episode. That's fantastic. I love South Park. Is there any categorizing that we could do with any of these things? Ooh, I like this, Jason. Trust is part of qualification. Interesting. So this and this could be maybe combined. Steve Dvorak combined some things like technical fit and business fit. Agreed. Discovery, qualification, and scope. Yeah. What else here? Discovery falls in there. I would agree. There's all trust building here. So we cut. Now we're categorizing. How about this? Discovery, trust, value, legal, contract, negotiation, close one. Ooh, I like that, Kenya. So legal and contracting plus closing plus maybe negotiation. So what are we doing here? We're categorizing our second C or combining our third C. So now let's look at that. If we could go and combine or move closed one and negotiation into sort of this legal and contractual thing. And let's see. We've got mutual action plan. We've got demo and scope. What are your thoughts on demo and scope? Oh, yeah, here we go. Demo scope call. How about a demo and POC? Does anyone think that a demo really is a proof of concept? Maybe. Or a proof of value? Could be, right? Could we go and rename demo and POC and other things and just call that all proof of value? 100%. Prove step. I like that. Evidence. So how about this? What if we were able to take these first things and we call that discovery, which includes qualification, building trust. And what if we took this second phase and we called it proof? And what do we want to name our third phase? We're closing, contracting, that kind of thing. Close. That works. Now, if we were to use this, we now are down to 1, 2, 3. And maybe you massage this a little bit. But now, if you went to a client and you said, hey, we'd like to take you through this software evaluation process. It involves just doing a little upfront discovery. Then we'll go and prove out the solution. And then if it works for you, we'll go on to contracting and closing activities. How does that sound? Does anyone like that better than here are the 11 things that we need to go through? Way better. Much better. Much better. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to race this up here, but this is how to apply the CCC framework to the rule of 3 so that you can simplify things for your buyer. And I guarantee you they will pursue more opportunities like this, and they'll probably make decisions more quickly as a result of it. So what are some key takeaways that people got from this session? Go ahead, drop it in the chat just on the CCC. Any comments, feedback? I'll erase this stuff for us. Simplicity is key. I love it. KISS, rule of 3. All righty. Proof is incredibly important to the buyer. Simplicity and brevity. Love it. 3 is the key. Yeah, that rule of 3 has worked wonders for me. Being a process-oriented individual, industrial engineer, it's easy for us to go through each and every step. And a lot of times we can simplify using that CCC. So if you want to stop rambling, use the rule of 3 and use CCC to help get you to that rule of 3. Now what we're going to do is introduce another framework, and this is good for explaining products more simply. So you all are probably selling software products, or maybe even you're selling certain features or solutions inside a bigger platform. And that can be difficult. And, I used to sell a low-code platform, and it was difficult because say, oh, well, what does that do? Well, you can drag and drop and point and click, and you don't have to code, and you do all sorts of things. You get to this explanation, and then your parents have no idea what you do for a living, except for you work with computers. So this is a way to explain products more simply. And when you look at this, you want to think about, drop in the chat. I want you to take an example of this. I want you to tell me, what is Salesforce? Go ahead, drop it in the chat and explain to me. What is Salesforce? We're going to talk about that product. We can talk about any product, but this is a good example one. What's Salesforce? CRM. Nice. Okay. Now, hang on a second. What is CRM? Program for organizing data, the world's greatest platform, a tool to manage your customer relations, where it all happens. Oh, rule of 3. It's a 3-letter acronym. Yeah, that's CRM. Let's see. System for managing customer data. Cloud-based customer relationship management platform that helps businesses improve customer loyalty and productivity. Yeah. Where sales reps are meant to add their notes. Yes. And where they often do not. Paul, I love it. Let's see here. Yeah, I've been the sales rep that did that. I was not applauded for my Salesforce hygiene. Okay. So you see, there's a lot of answers to this, right? And it's tough. I loved Sarah Jones's response here. And you can go and just get a bunch of information about this, but you don't really know what it is. And then CRM, what is that? Customer relationship management. Okay, but what is customer relationship management, right? It's confusing. So I'm going to introduce this new framework, a different way to do this. And before I do, I want you to show you what ChatGPT says Salesforce is. So if you read this, it's a cloud-based customer relationship management platform that helps businesses manage their interactions with customers and potential clients. Salesforce also offers robust marketing automation capabilities, enabling business, blah, 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 blah. This is too much. This is not going to have anyone's attention. So the framework that I'm going to introduce is simple. There's 2 questions that you need to answer for the person that you're speaking to. The first question is, are you talking to me? No, it's actually, who is it for? Who is this product or solution or capability for? You want to know that before you get into the details, because if you start to get into how it all works, people don't know, is this actually relevant for me? So the question you want to answer for them is, who is it for? The next question you want to answer is, what is it for? So I got this from Seth Godin, excellent marketer, but it's really clear. If you're talking about any product or service, just say who it's for and what it's for. So now let's make this applicable. I want you to drop in the chat, who is Salesforce for? Go for it. Everyone, sales teams, management, let's see, sales leadership, micromanaging managers. I love this group. Sales, customers, go-to-market teams, the next sales rep. Yeah, that's true. Once one's gone, you got to figure out what the heck was going on. Customer-facing departments. Yeah, it's a little all over the place, right? Now let's go and let's focus in on one of them. Let's say it's for sales reps. At least that was the promise, right? It sounds like it's a little bit more for leaders. But let's say Salesforce is for sales reps. What is it for? So now answer that question. It's who it's for is sales rep. What is it for the sales rep? Documentation, track quota, tracking deals, metrics, Glengarry leads, deal prioritization, help guide everyone working with the prospect and customer to ensure we are all collaborating. Yep, good stuff, Lee. Forecasting, deal intelligence, single source of truth, documenting deal cycle. Yeah. So when you focus it in on a single user or a single role, and then what it's for, it becomes more clear, right? Because it's not for marketing if it's a sales rep. So this is where you can use this framework, and then all you have to do is tailor it to who's the person you're actually talking to right now. Are you talking to a sales leader? Because if you're talking to a sales leader, Salesforce is probably for sales leaders to figure out if they're going to hit quota or not, or if they need to tell their sales reps to pick up the phone more. If it's for sales individuals, sales people, it's going to be a little bit different. So to recap on this is what happens when you try to explain a topic without using the who's it for, what's it for. You get the chat GPT, blah, blah, blah. If you use the who's it for, what's it for, you can say something as simple as Salesforce is software for sales reps. It allows them to track all of their deals in one place. Much simpler. So consider that the next time someone asks you, what does that do? Think about what's their role, or who is the intended user that you want to affect, and say, who's it for and what's it for? And if you do this, a lot more clear and concise. What if you have a mixed audience? That is a great question, Nicole. And actually, if we have more questions, drop them in the chat. Oh, looks like my camera's frozen here. I just gave you all a thumbs up. Hang on one second. Let's see, am I back? There we go. Good old, wouldn't be technical difficulties. There wouldn't be a presentation without technical difficulties. So hello, everyone. Ben, I can get into that. So questions, drop them in the chat. What do you do if you have a mixed audience? It's a great question. So you can try the generic approach of going and trying to hit everybody, but I would prefer to focus on the individuals that are most important in that meeting. So for example, if you're on a portion of the demo where you're talking about how the sales manager's life is easier, you want to be talking to that. If you're starting off as an intro presentation, you may go and give the more generic pitch. But remember, by trying to kind of suit everyone or appeal to everyone, you're kind of appealing to no one, right? A marketing intelligence platform that allows and gives all this sort of stuff, it's just not compelling to anyone. So remember, at the core, these are individuals or humans, and they all will have their own agenda. So if you have a mixed audience, try to focus. I like this. Call people out by name. Great stuff there, Jennifer. All right. Now you might think, well, this only works with simple products, right? Well, it doesn't. Do we have any software developers in the house here? Anybody knows what Kubernetes is? It's used by developers. It's for containers. People would have no idea what this is. So if you're a software developer or a techie, you can use this for super complicated things. So for example, when I look up what is Kubernetes, you've got what is this, 8 bullet point or 8-step process here for Kubernetes, what it does and how it does all things for all people. I think ChatGPT could use a rule of 3. Instead, what you can do is use the who's it for, what's it for, and Kubernetes is for software developers, and it automates deployment and management of containers. So we can go from this to that with just who's it for and what's it for. All right. So to recap, to stop rambling, use that rule of 3, use the CCC, and remember, when you're talking about a product, a solution, a capability, you can answer who's it for and what's it for. And it makes things much simpler. So now we're going to get into answering questions more simply. So in the chat again, I have a trivia question for you all. And that is, what's a sales engineer's favorite answer to a question? Let's see what we got here. Ian, everybody nailed it. Oh, I love it, Jack Cocker. Great question. Good question. It depends, right? It depends. Ding, ding, ding. Everybody loves this answer. Now, next question. What is the least valuable answer to a question from the prospect's point of view? Yeah. Silence. It is also, it depends. So the truth is, the answer to most questions is it depends. However, that is not a helpful answer in sales, because what it does is it sort of takes responsibility and it goes and it gives it right back to the client and it says, you figure it out. That's what you're saying when someone asks you, how do you integrate with our backend systems? And you say, it depends. Here you go. I'm going to give you 15 different options, and then you're going to have to go talk to Rick from IT to figure out which one is best for you. So it's not super helpful. Now, I want to tell a quick story on this, because this is what your prospect feels like when you say it depends. You just hit them with all this stuff, right? And they're overwhelmed and they're discombobulated and they don't know what to do. And I'll give you a good example. I've got a friend in Boston. He's a VP of finance, was at a company where they weren't quite startup, but they were looking to go and buy a new financial platform. And they were evaluating 2 companies. One was Oracle, NetSuite, and the other was a smaller competitor that I won't mention the name of. However, we were talking and he said, he knows what I do. So he said, oh yeah, I just went through a software evaluation. I was like, oh, what do you think of it? He said, oh, well, it was really interesting. I said, who did you end up picking? He told me about the 2 different vendors. He said, Oracle. I said, why do you pick Oracle? He's like, well, you know, Rew, I didn't want to pick Oracle at the time, but I just noticed that the pre-sales difference was very different. And I said, tell me more about that. That's usually the folks that I'm training when I'm doing a sales training. And he said, so it was interesting in that we got the demos of each product and we did some solution. It's a lot of solutioning in these sales processes. He said, but when I was talking with the sales solution consultant from Oracle, I can't remember what they call them, their names. He said he would go and say, how would you go and set things up for our system, you know, how we're doing things? And he would get sort of a, well, based on your answer, I think that you should do X, Y, Z, whatever it was. And he said, when he was speaking with the other solution consultant, that solution consultant would talk about the flexibility of the platform. And he'd say, well, you have a lot of options. You can do it this way or that way or the other way. And he said, it got to the point where I just wasn't sure of what we needed to do. And so I said, so let me get this right. You just wanted to be told what to do. He said, yeah. I said, so you picked Oracle just because they told you what to do? He said, yeah. I said, okay, now here's the real tell. If the solution consultant from Oracle was on that smaller competitor, would you have picked that product? And he said, yeah. I said, wow. So the difference between the two of these was that one said it depends and gave the customer lots of options, which made them confused. And one took an opinion and a point of view. And that's the one that got the business. So the moral of this story is, it depends without more information is not helpful for your buyer. In fact, it will often turn them away, because you got to remember, if they're talking to you, it's because they're not sure what to do. If they did know what to do, they would have already made a decision. So, Joe, I love this. This is why clarifying questions help. Exactly. So what we're not doing here is we're not saying never say it depends. That's not the case. Instead, we want to talk about some alternatives to it depends. These will be helpful for your client, and they'll also help you to stop rambling, because a great way to kill time in a demo is to go and say it depends and then give all those options. So these are some alternative forms of saying it depends without saying it depends, and with asking and clarifying for more help. So I would highly recommend trying a couple of these out in your next meeting. And what I do is I've triggered myself where when I get a question, like how do you integrate with our backend systems, and I'm about to say it depends, I pause for a second. Like, okay, this is a moment. This is a sign. I'm into potential over-explaining mode. I need to ask a question. And so this is what that typically looks like. You can use this. You can say, that's a great question. That's a great way that SEs love saying great question, right? It's a crutch word, but it's fine. You can say that's a great question. Why do you ask? And then the customer will give you a little bit more information. Or if you don't like that and you want to give the customer something, you could say, I could answer that a couple of different ways. Why do you ask? Or I could answer that a couple of different ways. Could you give me more context behind why you're asking? And what this does is this acknowledges that you heard them, you understood, and you're trying to figure out more so that you can give them a better answer. Now let's make this real applicable. I would see this a lot of the times when I would go and get the question, how do you integrate with our backend systems? And a smart solutions consultant, a smart sales rep, anybody that's been at the company for a while will probably know 10 different ways to do that. So for all of you folks that are 5+ years at the company, you may say, oh, you can use REST-based web services and SOAP-based web services, and you can use middleware, and you can go and use your legacy provider. You might be able to do a batch file. You could do a text up at the end of the night. You could use open APIs. You could be all of these different options. And meanwhile, the customer's thinking, where the heck do I go from here? Instead, you say, that's a great question. Can I understand why you ask? Yeah, well, we're moving from Oracle to SAP, and we just want to make sure we'll be able to integrate with these systems. Oh, okay. Well, based on what you said, I would recommend using the existing middleware provider you have or our REST-based web services. Great. So what you did is you filtered all these options down, you picked one, and now you progress the deal forward. You don't have to go and invite in Rick from Enterprise Architecture to go and pontificate about all the different options and integration protocols. You instead asked a question, clarified, and then gave a clear answer. And now the customer doesn't feel overwhelmed like they're, the child with a water hose in their face, but instead they're able to move forward and make a decision. So the takeaway here is when you find yourself about to say it depends, just catch yourself for a second. That is a good opportunity to ask a clarifying question. A lot of people will tell you, answer every question with a question. I think that's terrible advice, because if you do that, people get annoyed. But if you do it when you're going to say it depends, it's going to be a lot less, it's going to be a lot better for the client. So that's what we've got for alternatives to it depends. So to stop rambling, we've got a couple things here. Notice I have 4 bullet points, but 3 concepts. Use the rule of 3. Use the CCC, answer who's it for, what's it for, and don't say it depends if you can avoid it. Sometimes you have to say that. All right. Where are we at here? Do we have any questions that came in? Probably got a couple of hands, couple of seconds for that. If not, let's pull up Samir again. Samir, you want to come up on stage and just give one quick rundown again on maybe 3 steps to implementation?
3 steps to implementation.
Yeah.
I would say plan, implement, and get started.
Bingo. 5 seconds, done. So
Boom.
there's a great example. Thank you, Samir, of the rule of 3 in practice. It simplifies that entire long Google sheet into just 3 things. All right. Mic drop from Sarah Jones. Thank you. So what's next? Samir, thank you for jumping in on that. You all probably have this event coming up, and it is called Sales Kickoff or Revenue Kickoff. And this is what your SE leaders are doing for it. So if you're an individual contributor, your sales engineering leader is going to be asked, what do you want to do with your SEs during SKO? You know, since 90% of that thing is made for the AEs. And luckily, maybe you get 2 hours to yourselves. They're going to be running around thinking, what the heck would I do with the team? So if that's you and you want to help out your sales engineering leader, you can go ahead and scan this barcode, and I will send you 3 SKO games that you can send to your leader so they're not racing around at the last minute trying to plan out your SKO. And these will help you with things like brevity and getting to the point. There are some other games and other things that we offer. If you are interested in, we also do trainings for sales kickoffs for both sales teams and for pre-sales teams. Most of the training that I do is virtual, actually, but for sales kickoffs, the one time a year that SEs can get together, it's a great opportunity to do fun activities and to learn something in the process. So if you're interested in that, reach out. The best way to do this is to do a session for the entire go-to-market team. For example, we'll do things on discovery, storytelling, and other relationship-oriented selling. And then for the pre-sales team, we'll do something specifically for their breakout session. So if you're planning an SKO, or you know if your leaders are planning an SKO coming up soon, let me know. I can send you over a little bit of information about what we do. So yeah, I can go back to this QR code. Here you go. Thank you, our Anton, for putting that in there. So this will just get your email, and then we will send you that page with the 3 different SKO games. You can use them in SKO. You can use them in your weekly meetings. So that's all I had for folks. Brian, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you so much for having me here. And if there's any questions or anything like that, we can take them or be on our way.
Well, first of all, thanks, Rew. This was fantastic. I've been taking notes on the side myself. I was both happy that the home run team, we've started to put some of these things into practice without having kind of the framework name for it. So I feel a little bit good about some of the stuff we're doing, but also realize we need to schedule some dedicated time to go through just about everything we do and make sure we got these frameworks in place, because it's great stuff. I can see how it certainly helps. I really liked the last part around the it depends and all the different branches, because as you said, it's easy, especially for us on the home run side. We spent our entire careers in pre-sales. We kind of we know what a good process looks like, and then somebody wants to say, how do we do X, Y, or Z? And we can give them 10 different ways that they could be thinking about it, 10 different ways home run could support it. And to get it down into well, tell me why you ask, why are you asking? Like, that's so helpful to then figure out what is the right recommendation for them versus just here's a menu of 10 different things. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's good stuff. Really, really, really loved every part of this. And also great audience engagement too, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We wanted actionable stuff, and the way you do it is you see it by whiteboarding up here. So thank you, everybody, that chimed in there.
For everybody who's still on and who listened to the recording, or who's on right now, we will be sending out an email afterwards with the link to the recording, so you can share that internally. Also, definitely recommend getting in touch with Rew for any of your trainings in the SKO. As I mentioned up front, we brought Rew in and did some training for a home run customer. It goes over really well. It's amazing content. Everybody gets a lot of value out of it. So big endorsement for Rew and Alpha Presales. All right, and with that, looks like a lot of thanks coming in, appreciation coming into the chat. So Rew, thanks so much, and we're going to go ahead and end it here. All right, bye everybody.
Thanks, everyone.